Hello, true duelists. It's YGO Strat's Yu-Gi-Oh! Single card history. We're going to be talking about some of the cards that have impacted Yu-Gi-Oh! Throughout the years, and some of the other ones that didn't. Today's card, the Beefcake Dinosaur, that's either the most broken going second card of all time, or completely fine. It's Dino Wrestler Pankratops. Pankratops was first released in Soul Fusion in 2018 as a lowly peasant rare, to many people's surprise at the time. Notable reprints to date include a secret rare print in 2019's Battle of Legends Heroes Revenge, an ultra rare print in Duel Devastator also in 2019, and most recently as I make this video, both a rare printing as well as a collector's rare printing from Ancient Guardians in 2021. For time on the ban list, the card spent a short while at 3 after its release for just over a year before being smacked to limited on the January 2020 ban list, where it and the rest of the entirety of TOS format came to an end. A level 7 Earth attribute dinosaur type monster with 2600 attack and 0 defense, its effect reads: if your opponent controls more monsters than you do, you can special summon this card from your hand. You can only special summon Dino Wrestler Pankratops once per turn this way. Quick effect, you contribute one Dino Wrestler monster, then target one card your opponent controls. Destroy it. You can only use this effect of Dino Wrestler Pankratops once per turn. So what makes this card so good as to be limited? Well, mostly the fact that it's Cyber Dragon on crack. There are absolutely arguments that it could come back to 3 in the TCG, but in regards as to why it's at 1 now and why it can stay at 1 now, there are plenty of arguments for that as well. Getting into it, first up, it's the ease of summoning. In 2005, the game got Cyber Dragon, a 2100 attack level 5 machine that could summon itself for free, but only if the only monsters on the board were all controlled by the opponent. In 2018, Pankratops just required the opponent to have more monsters than you, for a level 7 with 2600 attack as a beat stick. Meaning you could have some remnant of a board from a previous turn, or you could just summon a monster first and then decide, nah, fuck it, I'm dropping Pankratops on board too. Even being just a beater makes this card very solid. At 2600 attack, this card can take care of a number of monsters in battle. The opponent made a 3 material Apollousa and has 3 negates for you to deal with? Not anymore. You can special Pank, beat over that Apo, and then play unimpeded in main phase 2. Maybe they've got a copy of a main deck Kashtira monster on board that you don't want to put up with. Look at all those stat lines below 2600. Stay the fuck out of my extra deck, thank you very much. Or just generally annoying cards to deal with depending on the matchup. Things like Masked Hero Darklaw, Chaos Hunter, Invoked Mechaba, and plenty more. All very good cards that die to the beefcake. And the best part is, afterwards, it can use its second effect to clear something else off the board as well. Pankratops requires you to tribute any Dino Wrestler monster, meaning it can tribute itself. And beyond just meaning that you don't have to play any of the other terrible Dino Wrestlers, it also means it leaves the field when using this effect. So on top of potentially clearing away a problem card in battle, it can also clear a second card with its effect, be it a monster or a spell or trap. Which brings to light another key thing about this card, that it is great for outing floodgates. So long as the opponent has a single monster and you've opened Pankratops, you can just throw down Pank and clear any floodgate in the game. Even Skill Drain, since Pankratops won't be face up on the field at resolution, meaning its effect won't be negated since it's tributed itself, and Fun Drain is destroyed. If the opponent has a Gozen match, a Rivalry of Warlords, there can be only one, or even something like Anti-Spell Fragrance, anything to restrict your monsters or gameplays in general, you can just special Pankratops, clear the floodgate, and then make your normal play, and mold ultimately when they flip the second floodgate. That is it's the same thing again, because sometimes it's Yu-Gi-Oh! And you're just gonna fucking lose. But when that doesn't happen, Pank cleared the first one without issue, and not many cards can do that. The card isn't without its weaknesses, namely that Called by the Grave can exist depending on your format, and, you know, any negate functionally. But sometimes baiting out a Called by the Grave or a negate can be good enough. 1-for-1s make the game go round after all. And then of course there's the fact that this card is beyond useless if you're going first in 99.9% of duels. Still, the positive traits the card has saw Pank rise not just to playability but right into prominence. With its release in Soul Fusion, the card shot into usage across the board. And I do mean across the board. top decks like Sky Striker could play this, since it would leave the main monster zone, keeping their spells live, and even rogue decks like Altergeist played it, because if you're going to be forced to go second, you may as well flex on them with the Dino Beats while doing so. Rather than list every single deck that used it, I'll just put up some decks here from its time at 3 on the screen, just to show you how many things were playing this chunky Dino Monkey. It's probably easier really to list the decks that didn't play Pankratops as opposed to the ones that did, because the card was pretty well synonymous with going second. The ultimate side deck tech of the format, it reached peak in National Season of 2019, with the card appearing across multiple top decks at national events across the entirety of the TCG, from North America to Europe, and even in places that might not actually be real, like New Zealand and the entire continent of South America. Shortly after this, of course, would come its limiting, but not the end of its usage. It continued to be a popular side deck card, much for the same reasons as before. Even against a full power Animancipator board or a Floodgate board run by Eldritch, the card remains strong. Maybe it's 2022 and your opponent scythe locked you because they're just here to commit sin. Joke's on you, kid. I pray to the Church of Creatine, and I've opened my one of Pankratops. So fuck your scythe lock and eat my main deck self-summoning 2600 beater and removal all wrapped in one. Even now, as I'm making this video, the card is still seeing a decent amount of play. Some Sprite decks have cited it at events, and the same goes for things like Labyrinth, and especially Super Heavy Samurai before the June 2023 ban list, as in terms of side deck monsters, Pankratops might just be the best one we've ever had. And with the exception of dinosaur decks, who sometimes can main it since they can search it on demand with the likes of Oviraptor or summon it with a big pill, that's about where the card is at today. It's a strong side deck card, and one that's best going second, with some debate as to whether or not it should still be limited. There are those who feel that the card is overhyped, and that the card simply offers one-for-one removal in the most of situations, and unlimiting it would only bolster going second strategies, which in general do need help in Yu-Gi-Oh! I'm not going to say that that statement's wrong, I'm just going to say that, for one, there are people who feel that Vishuddha should have been limited, or hit, or banned in Sword Soul format, let alone something as generic and versatile as Pankratops. And while it doesn't break Yu-Gi-Oh!, a 2600 beater that beats any normal summon in the game, and a number of extra deck cards to boot, is probably not something to be taken lightly. But that's just my 2 cents. Overall, Pankratops is nothing short of a phenomenal card, to the point that it might actually just be stupid. An out to a number of the game's best monsters and even cards in general without needing your normal summon, and with no restrictions beyond that hard once per turn. The only requirement is of course that you be going second. This card is the epitome of a side deck card and a certifiable staple of the game. I genuinely think this might be one of the best going second cards there is. I'm aware Evenly Matched exists, don't get me wrong, but it's like, the more I look at this card on paper, it's god damn. So long as it's playable, it's going to be in some amount of side decks. And if it ever comes back to 3, you know it's going to be in even more of them. And so that's our look at Yu-Gi-Oh! Single card history, Dino Wrestler Pankratops. Stay tuned for our next video, and feel free to suggest some cards to review or what type of video you'd like to see. Don't forget to like, and as always, subscribe to YGO Strats to impress your smoking Italian wife, to hear more congested ass videos like this sometimes, and most importantly, so you too can be a true duelist.